This is Talk Star Wars, the official podcast of talkstarwars.co.uk. Hello everyone, welcome back to Talk Star Wars. I'm Mark.
I'm Stephen.
I'm Rob.
And I'm Paul.
He gets the and credit. And we're back with
And
episode
I'm Paul.
72, and Stephen is not Paul. That's libelous.
Am I Paul?
Is this
I'm
like
not-
a Spartacus moment?
I'm not always sure that
know.
I am, so.
I'm
It's like you
Paulicus.
said it as a question.
I'm Paulicus.
I'm
I didn't
Shorticus.
say it as like a question at all.
Maybe you should have done. I would have given you the answer.
That's a very Antipodean way of speaking, isn't it? With the upward inflection.
Going up at the end.
Yes, it is.
Going up at the end.
Doesn't matter what you say. You go at the end.
That's it.
I like sheep.
Apologies
Any
to
other
Mr. Keegan.
animals are available.
And used.
So before we get started this week, we want to first
Good evening to all our Australian viewers.
And goodbye.
we want to shout out the everyone that attended the first Talk Star Wars VIP meetup this weekend at the O2 for Star Wars Identities. What a wonderful day that was. I had a great time.
That was good fun.
Steve, did you have a nice Saturday?
Yeah, I was on my own.
You were at a zoo, weren't you?
No, I didn't do the zoo. They
Did you?
cancelled, so I did garden inspections instead.
Right, okay.
They cancelled. Well, they didn't cancel. They kind of messed up. It was a long story, but
Right.
no, it didn't happen. I was all geared up, ready to go. I couldn't have gone anyway because I didn't find out till the last minute.
Yeah,
I
you
did
would have
other
got a
stuff.
ticket.
No, yeah, it was all kind of. It was a bit of a nightmare, but yes, I did have a lovely time. Did a couple of inspections and did a couple of videos on my channel, which went down well. Oh my, second one.
Well, we had a superb time. It was nice to meet up with a handful of listeners and just get together. It's always lovely when we can get together in person.
Yes.
And the exhibition was fantastic.
It was very cool.
I know, Paul. You
Yeah, Andy
found,
said it was very informative.
So
Yeah,
nice I
'cause-
did it twice.
Andy was there. Paul, you liked the ships?
Fine, mate.
They were fantastic, weren't they? The
I could have fit in some of them, mate. Seriously.
yeah,
I
What
believe
were they
it.
models of ships?
yeah, the
Yeah.
actual models.
No, the real thing to
No,
scale.
the
Wow.
real thing that we left orbit, Steve, and
No,
You wouldn't
I
know
mean,
because you didn't get a ticket.
were they like full size models you could walk
yeah,
around
there's a
in?
full-size
No,
Death
no.
Star.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's actually the O2 is it's hollow. It looks hollow underneath, but actually it's a
That is the
Inside
dish.
There's
Yeah.
hundreds of subterranean levels.
Yeah.
That's it. Is the
don't like
dish.
to make a big deal, but yeah, it's weird.
It was an awesome day, and I need to just shout out Jean-Paul Sinclair, JP, for doing all the coordinating. He did a lot
Good
of
job.
juggling there with people to get that all together, and it was fantastic. And he
He's-
also ordered the meatballs.
Stonk.
He did.
How many people turned up to see you?
I don't know what was how many of us were there? Any at the most is maybe a dozen of us.
Yeah, it's about
There's
that.
a photograph on the Facebook
No,
page.
it was
Yeah.
nice, comfy.
Oh,
little
nice.
pub.
So half our listeners.
And
So
the-
it's 50%.
You got more than that, Steve. You'd know if you ever interacted with them.
How rude.
I'm salty tonight. I'm back on the drink because of the pre-show.
Oh,
Salty. Oh my.
Surprise.
some material recorded, never to be heard.
Yes,
That's
good.
amazing.
All right, let's get into some thank yous. We want to thank James Matthews for subscribing to our YouTube channel this week, and to the other people that YouTube is refusing to tell me about. It shows me the numbers.
They keep their things secret. Probably is what I do.
Yeah, so if you have subscribed to the channel, thank you very much. And I want to thank Jim Ford, who was an emailer from last week. Jim's, I guess, a new listener. I can't remember if he was a long-time listener, first-time writer, but he sent us a really nice email last week and then went on to like the Facebook page, and he followed us on Twitter. So thank you for that, Jim. We may be hearing from him again in a minute. And also thank you and welcome to Adam Ryan Masood, who became a TSW VIP this week. Friend of Jared
Nice.
Peppard
Nice.
on the Facebook group there. So
Welcome all.
thank you, everybody. And a thank you to Kyle as well, who boosted his subscription as well this month.
Kyle Reese.
Nice.
Not
They're
Carl.
the best people boost their subscription, I would say.
Oh, well, that has happened previously.
Yeah, I know. I did it.
Quality. All right, should we move into some reviews?
Yeah.
Yes.
We got 1 5-star review this week. So
Staff.
don't forget, obviously someone's reading ahead.
Where's my paycheck?
Don't forget, you can take advantage of the Ron Burgundy policy. That means whatever you write in a 5-star review, one of my colleagues, will read verbatim. Want to promote your podcast or blog? I missed an opportunity there. This is where you can do it. There's only one rule: keep it clean, because family show and stuff. So, shall I take this one?
Yeah, it's long.
Probably
After
wise.
last week, I'm never doing it again.
You weren't here last week.
That was a
Week before last, don't be contrite.
Be correct.
So here we go. 5-star review. Marc and his staff are great. That has gone down like a lead balloon. And this is by Count Mandu in iTunes UK.
Way.
So this is a fabulous podcast which has awakened my love of Star Wars. Being of a certain age, I was brought up on the original trilogy. I was super excited by the thought of the prequels, and then they gave me a rubber dinosaur with a speech impediment, so skipped the other two for many, many years. When The Force Awakens came along, I took my young son to see it, just like my dad did with me, for A New Hope. I was then back in the galaxy. I've been listening to the podcast for the past 4 months or so and love the vast depth of knowledge Marc and his staff have on the films and other things. I listen with intrigue to learn all the things that often pass me by. I tried to ignore the spoilers, having missed the 2 films. I've since watched all 7 films over the past months and surprisingly loved the 3rd prequel. I no longer have to worry about spoilers. This is a great podcast which helps me on my 2-hour daily commute on the M25 curb crawl. It has since led me to listen to the other shows on the Commonwealth. Keep up the great work. So thank you for that.
Wow.
Count Mandu. And my staff also extend their gratitude for the kind words.
Yep.
Yeah, that's an awesome review, that. Can I just
awesome.
say, I have no idea what the word contrite means. I don't know why I said it, and I'm sorry, and I want to go back.
The word you wanted, Steve, was correct.
No, I
correct.
wanted to say contrary.
Stop squabbling. Stop squabbling.
I was right.
There's plenty of time for squabbling.
You're horrible to me, Rob.
Good.
We've got lots of notes. Right, listen to comms. You can send your questions and comments to us via Twitter or Facebook, or you can send us an email. And if you attach an MP3, not a VIP, you can attach one of those as well. It might be
If you attach
difficult.
a naked picture of yourself, Marc will reply with a naked one of himself.
He will read it on the air. He'll describe it for you on the air.
I will.
And
Like
he
an
puts
audio,
it in landscape.
like an audio
Let's leave
book.
it at that.
Disgusting. Attach an MP3 and we'll use it as a voicemail on the show. So email us at talkstarwarsinfo@gmail.com. Okay. Who wants to take Jim? This is Jim Ford, as previously mentioned at the top of the show. Who would like to read this? How
Can I
about
do
you? Stephen.
Get me out of the way, because I need a Jimmy Riddle.
We'll talk about it afterwards.
I was talking then. I don't know if I want this. We're not even mentioned, Paul.
Turn up.
Dear Marc and Rob.
Turn up.
Keep reading.
Thanks,
It makes sense.
Dear Marc and Rob, thanks a lot for giving some time to my idea about Ray and Ben being twins. Y'all are right that Kyra and Kylo wouldn't really work as twins. Names as Kylo is name chosen by Ben, but I was thinking more along the...
Let me stop you there. Don't do that voice.
But it was working, but I didn't realise the sentence had no punctuation in it.
It wasn't working.
I'd say that qualifying that as working shows how generous you are to yourself.
Okay.
You're a generous
right,
guy.
I'll rewrite that
Always
sentence. Keep it in, it's a hoot. Y'all are right that Kyra and Kylo wouldn't really work as twin names, as Kylo is the name chosen by Ben, but I was thinking more along the lines as what could have been intended back when the story was being written. Sorry for not being more clear.
That makes more sense.
It does. I like Mark's idea about Luke perhaps discovering that a person was coming to help fight against the dark side and passing that on, because if Rey is not related to a Skywalker, then there needs to be some explanation on why the main characters seem familiar with her, as if they know or kind of know her in some way. Now, that's a theory that's cooking on the front burner. Should we go to the back burner? Rob, I also liked your idea about if Han and Rey's dad and Kylo used that info to push her to give in to her anger to try and turn her to the dark side. That would be a heavy moment. I bet she would show him how the cow eats the cabbage. I'll tell you what.
Sounds like a euphemism.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic kind of...
Y'all really do come up with some great ideas. I wouldn't be surprised to see either of these things these thoughts show up in the next film. Thanks for giving me fuel for thought. On a closing note, I heard an interview with Mark Hamill where he said that he would have liked Luke to show up in The Force Awakens sooner. His thought was that he would be aware of the danger Han is in and show up at the Starkiller base just as Han gets struck down too late to save him. That would have been awesome. While not a hero's entrance, it would have given us more screen time with Luke, and I think the scene made the scene even more emotional. Would it be too much? Too dark? I'd love to hear y'all's thought on other ways we could have been introduced to Luke beside the last minute of the movie. Take it easy and always keep to the sunny side of life. Jim Ford. Thank you, Jim. So breakdown. How could Luke have been introduced earlier in The Force Awakens? And would a last-minute attempt to save Han have been too dark? Answers on a postcard, please. Just email nowadays.
I really like this question. We've covered some of this in the past. So I'm gonna hold my answer back because I've used mine a couple of times in recent episodes. So, Paul, should we start with you? How could Luke have been introduced into The Force Awakens earlier?
It's not a theory on this. It's just something I think, in hindsight, I would like to have seen. It's just a few cuts. Seriously, a few little edits radically split through the film at certain points where we go into maybe a cave page and then away, and then you go back later and you see somebody desk or something like that, and then away, and then you go back and you just see a body go over the top of a wall and then away. So I would have liked to have seen us go to this sort of solitary moment where we're in Luke's environment literally for a few seconds and then we come away again. And that would have been, I think, a way to introduce the end. Luke on the mount.
Yeah, good idea. I like that. The quick cutting away. Rob? What doesn't appeal to you about that?
About that particular one, it's watching Luke do housework.
What if it was?
That's bringing him in. To me, that feels like bringing him in for the sake of bringing him in. At that point, it doesn't add anything to the story. If anything, it detracts.
What in the end didn't?
Well, no, I like I have my thoughts on how I would have liked to see him enter, and we've covered it on the previous episode, but I'm happy to go over it again. Which is, I thought that in the teaser trailer, when the light was suddenly shone on Rey from the forest, I thought that was it. I thought that was when he was turning up.
Yeah,
I thought he was Gandalf in it.
That was mine as well. I thought that.
I actually thought that was Phasma and the gang.
We spoke about that on the podcast, didn't we? That we all thought that.
Yeah, but
because we thought actually that it wasn't Vin because it didn't look like a black guy; it looked like a white guy's ear.
Yeah, which was actually Daisy's finger.
I absolutely did not want to see Luke at the death of Han, because him not being there burns more anger up inside. And so him witnessing it,
him failing to save Han.
Yeah, I wasn't there. I mean, that's a far more intriguing situation. So
yeah, I agree.
If Luke turns up and he fails to save Han, that weakens Luke to a point where you're going to question his importance.
Yeah, and also has he missed a step? With this one, it's like we don't know anything yet. They've kept it as mysterious as they possibly can.
Yeah.
If he turned up and just kind of just missed him, just like grab, you see him sort of, reach out a hand, just slips through, and he turns to the camera and it's like, oh well, can't get rid of them all.
Yeah. At this point, has he deliberately chosen not to go and save Han? Has he let Han die? But I think what Paul's idea would have worked really well if it was Daisy having visions.
That might work.
If she kept tripping over these little visions.
Oh, he likes it now.
Yeah,
it makes more sense, sure.
I like the idea of, there was a movie. What was the movie where someone... I think it was in a Harry Potter, and I know that we don't really want Harry Potter
we was having the visions through Voldemort's eyes, or the snake's eyes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if she kept seeing Luke's whereabouts from his perspective, and she was disoriented by that, I think that would have been an interesting way to have slowly revealed Luke, and then you wouldn't have context for what she's seeing until the end of the movie.
Yeah,
I actually quite like the idea of him now, seriously rubbing clothes against a washboard outside and hoovering, and I think that would have been cool.
Yeah.
Okay,
just like surfing TV, just looking for
something
something to
channels.
kill some time with.
Seeing that.
Hand down his pants, drinking a
Next,
beer.
the first line of episode 8 is, you know what stupid is? I sat there all night evening and still didn't decide on anything to watch. I spent most of the evening
He's
choosing.
watching the prequels. What the
Oh, Paul.
Sorry.
You were doing
I said
so
prequels.
well.
I said prequels, sorry.
No, you said.
Oh, now we've done it again.
Well, I'm just pointing out the obvious.
It's good. Steve, did you have, apart from obviously the Gandalf the White thing?
A wizard has never let Frodo back in. I believe that the whole not bringing Luke into it till the last minute was a colossal mess and mistake. As I've always said, the whole of Star Wars is about the Skywalker bloodline, and to not have Luke in it right from the start is ridiculous and an insult to Mark Hamill. And I think the whole thing was handled really badly. So if he'd been brought in at any point before the very end of the movie with no line, it would have been better. That is why I think The Force Awakens is a pile of poo-doo.
Now, I always wait for the moment in the recording where I understand which version of you I've got for the night, and now your position is quite clear.
Oh, yeah.
So any point before the end of the movie, in your estimation, would have been good then, Steve?
Yeah, it's like crazy. If they were taking bets before there was any indication of what the film was going to be like, no one would have bet that Mark Hamill wasn't actually in it but not in it. No one. It was a crazy idea. None of the fans wanted it. It was just crap.
Didn't bother me.
Awful decision.
Didn't bother me at all.
Okay.
Except for one.
And me. It didn't bother me. And I'm fine.
Hey.
I'm fine.
Not one and a half.
I'm fine with Luke coming in at the last minute like that as well. I think it shows extraordinary restraint to do something like that with that
keeps the
level
palate wet, mate.
of character. Yeah. And my thing about the scene we spoke about earlier with the on Starkiller Base when the Falcons floodlights were coming through those trees. That was the moment in the trailer that I thought that's going to be Luke entering. I don't know what I was expecting, whether it would have been him walking out of the lights of a ship that landed to save Rey, but I'm glad that's not how we were introduced to him, because again, he was just 5 minutes too late to save his friend. The way they used him now, I think, helps. Still leaves a little bit of mystique around Luke. Why did he decide not to go there? Or didn't he know? But turning up late makes him weaker than either of those options, I think. So,
can I ask a question, Mark? Are you talking about Mark Hamill and his disagreements in episode 8 tonight? I've tried. I can't find it in the notes.
No, because I think that happened a couple of weeks ago.
That yes, but we haven't really discussed it, have we? Not to length, but
no, not
unless you did it last week. Because that is really scary. Have you read the transcript of what was said?
I've seen that Mark made the comments that he fundamentally disagreed with everything Rian Johnson had decided for Luke.
For his character.
But then Mark very pointedly came out and said, but I've been wrong previously and I'm wrong now.
I didn't know. See, I didn't read the wrong now bit. I read that he said, I can be wrong and I've been wrong before, but he didn't say he was wrong about that, that's a bit I found scary, because there's every chance that if he didn't like it, we ain't going to like it.
Well, as Mark pointed out, for Return of the Jedi, he wanted Luke to have a mohawk and an earring.
Seriously?
Yeah, so people, he doesn't really have all the answers, and that's why he's not the writer and director of these films. He is the guy that brings Luke to life, but he obviously does well within the confines of what's created for him by the people that understand how they're developing Luke. And that's not to say that Mark's weak in his understanding of the character. It's just a little bit large for Star Wars, some of those things.
Okay, I'll shut up then.
No, not at all, mate. Not at all. It's
No, I've been owned.
No, it's a valid topic.
I'll take it back.
It's a valid topic, and I think
I am disappointed though in The Force Awakens. I always have been, always will be. I hated the end. I hated the middle bit, and the less said about the beginning, the better.
Yeah, I'll see your I'll see you're less said about it, and I'll raise you. I stop talking about it.
You'll raise me $1.5 billion in the box office. Okay, fair enough.
Jim, thank you very much for writing in again. It's always a pleasure to hear from you, sir, and we hope to get something from you again in the next couple of weeks. Let's move on to Jared's question. Rob, would you like to take this?
Sure. Okay. There's two
Seamless.
parts, right?
There's two parts.
Absolutely seamless.
Making sure I've got it in the right place. Jared asks, do you think Cypher Diaz will ever be mentioned again in the new canon, or of any further relevance in the saga? Possible Snoke-Rey connection. So we'll answer that one first, I guess.
Yeah, if you want to, we can go straight.
You've only got a short one, Rob.
Oh my! Who have you been talking to?
I'm reading. I'm like, what are you reading? I'm looking at the wrong one. Sorry.
That'll do it.
This is the On Fire episode tonight.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, do you think we'll see Cypher Diaz mentioned again?
No. I think they bungled that at the time. I think they're going to steer clear of that because of the risk of bungling it again.
Yes.
Can somebody remind me of when it was mentioned and in what scenario?
Cypher Diaz allegedly ordered the clone army despite being dead.
Yes. Oh, okay. Dead in canon.
Diaz. Yeah, as in, he was dead already by the time the clone army. Well, either by the time the clone army was ordered or shortly afterwards. Because Obi-Wan not pretended to be him, but pretended to be there on his behalf. So
in terms of the canon, as far as the movies go, that was the only time he was mentioned.
Yep.
They gave him a name that's uncomfortably close to Sidious, Cypher Diaz. It wasn't very clear that they're not the same character, and because we're led to believe within the movies that Cypher Diaz was dead at that point, it could well have been Sidious that had gone there and used another name. I think you're right. I think that they bungled that character, and they didn't spend enough time explaining it. It wasn't clear. It could have just been.
Was it a mistake on their part, Mark? Like on Lucas's part, that he got all his timelines wrong? No, I don't think it was a mistake as much as I just think it was poor judgment. It could have been. They could have easily have said Tyrannus. It was ordered by Tyrannus, and then we understand then that they're talking about Dooku, and that would have made a lot more sense. But we're led to believe that Dooku and Sidious either corrupted Cypher Diaz or used his identity to infiltrate Kamino, and none of it's explained.
Where would the Rey connection come in there? I can understand Snoke, but
this is the thing, isn't it? It's like, what is it? Well, how do you even get there?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is part of the reason.
Right, okay.
Yeah, it's partly the reason I have the problem with it is just because it's really weird, and another one of those things that makes things feel small, and for lack of a better term, incestuous. I know that means something different in the Star Wars universe, but it makes it feel like everything's tied too neatly together, and I think that's, it might make you feel better when it's like, oh, well, that ties in nicely, but then when you go back and think about it, it's like, well, actually, I would have liked them to do something different rather than just fall back on these old characters, especially ones that are really tenuously mentioned and throw away.
Yeah, so I'm willing to put my money on no, we'll never hear of Cypher Diaz again, and I can't imagine that they would tie that into anything moving forward. I think that the less time they spend dipping back into the prequels, at least in the minutiae of the prequels, the better, really.
Yeah.
Anything you guys want to add to that before we move on to number 2?
No, I mean, I don't know enough about the canon side of that too.
But that's it. So you're the audience now, Steve. You're the general audience of Star Wars, and they're not going to. If you brought up Cypher Diaz in the next movie, they're not going to know, and they're not going to want to go and find out either. They just want to be able to digest the story and move on. It's only us, the diehard fans, that really want to pick over this stuff, which is why we do it week in and week out on the podcast. But it's there's too much work for general audiences. Who's that guy again? What's the significance of that guy? It's too much.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of room, even with the general audience, to really get into the minutiae of the main characters. But unless you're going to get to our level of geekness, and not your level, because I've been pigeonholed as mainstream, then it's just not going to work for most people, is it? If you get too microscopic on it.
No, they don't need homework. They don't need to go. If they start to indulge in the connective materials, the TV shows and the comic books and maybe the odd audio book here and there, and these things start to drop into place for them, it'll enrich their experience, which is my perspective on these things. Whenever I dip into the connective material, I find it enriches my experience, colours in the details for the characters, but I don't rely on that stuff.
That's why Star Trek's been so successful, isn't it? Because everyone knows Star Trek. It's Federation, combination of the good. Then you've got Klingons were bad. They're now good as time goes on. The Romulans are goodish. Borg are bad. And anyone else is fair game. It's kind of an easy recipe, isn't it, for a show?
Yeah.
You kind of already know, even the regular people know about the Federation in Star Trek. And that's why it's been so successful. Some might say even more successful than Star Wars, really, to some degree.
And much, much better than Avatar in all degrees. Paul?
Blasphemer!
Ooh.
Do you have anything to offer on the sci-fi?
No, that's what I just said. No, I mean, just my only concern was, how would the Ray connection come into it? Because it's a complete hypothetic then.
Yes, yeah, completely.
No.
All right, Rob, let's move on to...
Unless you have a passion for digging that far, you wouldn't dig that far. So.
No, you shouldn't have to either, should you really?
Yeah, I think this is the thing. I think Lucasfilm have really got it kind of bang on with how much they're referencing the connected materials. Like all the sort of the Rebels references in Rogue One don't require you to have watched Rebels, but they enrich your experience if you have.
Yes.
Because you go, oh, that's the Ghost. Oh, that's Chopper. Oh, that's Hera they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't require you to have understood those things in order to...
well, they just become incidentals to Mr. and Mrs. Layman, don't they? So.
Yeah. And
exactly.
That's perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
Yeah, and that's fine. And actually, this is why one of the main reasons I don't ever think that Ezra will, the Snoke Ezra or the DJ Ezra, it's not happening. It's too,
Target.
The people who say they want that stuff are the superfans, and like it or not, Star Wars is not made for the superfans. It's made for the broad mass market. It's made for broad mass market appeal, and if the superfans love it, so much the better. And that's just the fact of life. Because
George said 12-year-old boys.
Yes.
Well, he said 12-year-olds. Exactly. That's the thing.
There'll be the people that when Benicio del Toro is revealed to be Duquesne in The Last Jedi, they only have to go back one film and go, oh, that's that guy. That's Duquesne.
And they can reference it using dialogue. They can say like, oh, I've heard Jordan. Oh, you'd have the Falcon. He might even recognise the Falcon and say,
I don't know if they'll even reference
having a
it,
ship
Rob.
like that.
I don't know if they'll even reference it. I don't think they'll need to. It's something that will retrospectively reward, because if you just introduce his, remember they're not going to use his name in this movie, but if they introduce his character and then in episode 9 it's all about Duquesne, or Duquesne gets referenced, then when you go back to the trilogy for a rewatch, you're going to look at the Duquesne reference in The Force Awakens, you're going to see him in the next movie. It's all going to click into place, and it gives that rewatch value, doesn't it? It's it's awesome. Right, let's move on to point number 2.
Okay, number 2. So second part is, do you think there'll be any Lando spin-off material featuring Donald Glover? And that's the reason why we haven't seen a return of Billy D. Williams. They want us to get used to Donald Glover as Lando. I think that's probably true.
That's interesting. Yeah, I definitely think that there will be spin-off material with Donald Glover. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think actually that might be one of Alden's rumoured 3 films.
Spin-off material featuring Donald Glover, yes, but not spin-off material for Lando, no.
Okay.
No, I don't see a Lando movie coming.
Okay.
I see Lando being a part of a movie. Well, obviously, we know that's happening already.
Yeah.
I don't see him being a prominent element in another movie.
I love the idea that they're going to produce another Star Wars story with Lando as the lead and Alden as the support. I really like that idea, that you'll be able to switch around the cast specifics in that way, that Donald Glover will get the lead in that film and his character will be the focus, and Alden Ehrenreich will just be like the supporting character, the supporting actor. I think that's a great idea. So what about this other end of this question then? Is that why we haven't seen a return of Billy D. Williams in episode 8? Or are there other things at play?
I mentioned I asked you the question without being rude in shape. I was like, his input in Celebration, he was extremely subdued, and I said, is everything okay? And you gave me the impression of the guy's quite sick. So
Yeah,
I don't think he was entirely well. I don't know about
Yeah.
sick in terms of he's not Peter Mayhew sick.
no.
okay.
I think he is a little bit. It was a little
poorly.
worse for wear at the time.
All right. Okay.
I don't think it's anything long term. I think it was just he was just a bit under the weather in general.
He's done a lot of voice work on Rebels, so he's still.
Was he really?
Yeah, he's still there. He's done Lando on Rebels,
Yeah.
so he's still there. He's still a part of the machine.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if he would really be able to carry much of a movie.
It'd be interesting to see him in one of the movies because I think Chewie would appreciate that shoulder.
Yeah, I can tell you now though that if what we've read in the Vanity Fair piece that The Force Awakens was Harrison's movie and The Last Jedi is Mark's movie and the Episode 9 was supposed to be Leia and Carrie's movie, if they put Billy D. Williams in as Lando, he's going to be shortchanged, and then we would spend a year talking about how wrong it was to shortchange Billy D and the character of Lando because he got sidelined. The same way we're having a conversation like we just had the conversation about how Luke wasn't on screen much.
There's not enough characters for all to have their own movie anyway.
No.
And he's unfortunately, I'm sorry, he's not a key character. No, he's not.
He's an awesome character.
No, he's Han and Chewie's buddy that happens to take up about a third of one of the original trilogy.
Yeah, but he's still.
Sorry, he's in Jedi.
He's a very charismatic.
He's brilliant.
Character.
I love Lando. No, to be honest, I love Lando, and the Bespin stuff is some of my favourite stuff. But as far as characters concerned, if you're going to give them literally a monumental script each per movie, if they're going to have a movie almost, he wouldn't be getting one.
Isn't there room now, obviously, with Carrie? Sad demise. Isn't there room in Episode 9 for another
we don't know what
character
any
we would
rewrites they might
love
have
and
done
know?
for this? So
We don't know.
I think it's a shame that again the original lovers of Star Wars are being overlooked. If it's the case that we're trying to get used to Donald Glover,
they're not. It's that Steve. You need to stop thinking of it in terms of where the old school fans are being overlooked. What they're doing is making the same decisions they've always made and aiming it at the same audience with the hope that in the same way an older generation will also dig it. It's not a question of we're making it for 12-year-olds and everybody else can get stuffed. That's not how it works. It's just
sometimes it comes across like that.
That might be the case, but then they can't control how you take it.
Yeah, 12-year-olds don't want to watch films. Don't want to watch a series of films for old people, do they? They have to have a Ray to sort of identify with the way that we had Luke. If the whole of Star Wars 40 years ago was Alec Guinness and Peter Cushing, we probably wouldn't have held our interests as children. As a 5-year-old boy, I probably wouldn't want to. I saw Alec Guinness on the TV every Sunday when my dad was watching old war movies. Perhaps I wouldn't want to watch that in the theatre, in the cinema. I was quite happy to get somebody closer to my age with Marc. He was like the grown-up to me as a 5-year-old boy. But, watching him bomb around in that land speed, it was awesome. I didn't need to watch...
Have you not seen Cocoon?
Yes, unfortunately.
A documentary?
I have. Not that long ago. Great question, Jared. I think that...
questions?
Yes,
There were two.
Questions, I think definitely Donald Glover will get a spin-off, in my opinion. I think that's a surefire thing. And Billy D, we've got him on Rebels, and that might be the best we get from Billy D now, I think, unfortunately. Okay, let's move on. Paul, do you want to take Brandon's question?
Brandon Batt. Is that right?
Indeed.
Yep.
Right. Sorry, I'm just scrolling down. Okay. Hi, Mark. I saw your request for talking points, so I threw together a quick question. If you find any use for it, my apologies for the random. Is strength, in brackets sensitivity, in the Force hereditary in general or only in the Skywalker bloodline? Because Anakin is the chosen one with an enormously high M count. Maybe they were wrong about the whole attachments rule. Why else would the chosen one a being made entirely of the Force be so emotional and needy? It's a good question. Maybe the Jedi had it all wrong and should have been going at it like rabbits to produce their own Force-strong younglings and increase their numbers to spread across the galaxy. No worries if you can't use it, Brandon. So breakdown. Is the Force sensitivity hereditary? Why is Anakin so needy? Should the Jedi have bred a Force-sensitive race? Is there a no-sex rule?
AKA, why the no-sex rule? So,
I preferred, is there a no-sex rule?
yeah.
It is interesting, the whole hereditary thing. But, I mean, I know no one likes the M-word. The whole M-word thing, that would imply a hereditary situation, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that it's genetic.
So, but at the same time, does the Force choose who gets the M's?
Yeah, well, there's definitely some. There are elements of the Force choosing people, isn't there, through the kyber crystal the way they connect to their kyber crystals would suggest that there's some of that going on. But it's also, we have a set of twins here at the center of Star Wars who are both from the same of the same lineage, and one's Force strong and the other one not so much.
And then you've got Kylo. You know, that's a hereditary bloodline thing, isn't it?
See, no, he's come through Leia. He's a descendant of Anakin, but through Leia, who isn't the stronger of the two twins.
No, but he's kind of skipped a generation, isn't it, and given it to him.
Like baldness.
But the other thing is, though, I mean, the whole council and, you know, Attack of the Clones, there's like 400 of them in the ring. That's a lot of bloodlines to be affected by the Force, right?
Yeah, but not enough, not that many when you look sort of galaxy-wide.
Well, we don't know about across the galaxy, do we? Is that question ever answered?
We hear that there are 10,000 Jedi at the time of the Clone Wars. So
theoretically, 10,000 Jedi is 10,000 bloodlines.
Yeah.
That's still quite a lot. So it's not. It doesn't look as. How can I put it? Romantic and special from that perspective.
I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah. Rob,
hello.
You're very quiet on this subject.
You're welcome. I don't know that we. You know, it's never really delved into in much depth. We don't know that they don't breed it in, if that makes sense. Like, just because they've got no attachments doesn't mean they can't, for lack of a better expression, do it for the kids.
Right.
There's no reason why the Jedi can't sort of pair off to produce more Force-sensitive offspring. No attachment, so they don't love each other. But you don't have to love somebody to have a kid with them.
That's interesting. So,
Jeremy Corbyn.
The young ones we saw.
Tile.
I was going to say, I don't remember hearing that anywhere, and he's been all over the news.
Sorry, too many too much politics.
So you're saying the younglings in episode 2 might all be the product of the Jedi, that are in those temples.
Could well be, and they cycle it through to prevent inbreeding.
Were they all human? No, there was a couple of little Twi'leks.
Oh
in there, wasn't there?
No, there's a couple of little. There's a Togruta in there.
Yeah, okay. Right.
I think someone suggested recently that Rey may be the offspring of 2 of Luke's students from his school.
Okay.
In this trilogy.
Maybe that's why people are familiar with her, is because, you know who she reminds me of?
Yeah. It's
Jeff and Bonnie's kid.
Yeah, the Jedi Jeff, yeah.
Yeah, Jeff Jedi and Bonnie Jedi.
Yeah, I guess, we can only take what we've been shown in the movies as our guide, and the only reference we seem to have is Qui-Gon saying, if we was born in one of the central systems, we'd have identified him early, referring to Anakin, right? As if they would sense these kids, or
he literally is labelled as the chosen one, though, isn't he? And it's prophecy based and so on. So that does change the rules somewhat. I mean, and it also, it's almost a bit Da Vinci Code, for crying out loud. You've got the chosen one with this royal bloodline, the whole Sangreal thing going on.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, there's lots of Jedis and they've all got the Force, but these guys really have the Force.
These guys are Forcey.
they're all Aldi, but these guys are the Marks and Spencers of the Force, or
Force
any
Marks
other
and
reasonable
Spencer
supermarket you might find on the high street.
Yeah.
Force Plus. Steve, is Force sensitivity hereditary?
Yes.
So this would be a nature nurture type thing, then, right? So if Force ability is nature, could nurture explain why Anakin became so whiny and needy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know really about that second bit. I think it's more simple than all this. I think the Metachlorian bit and the Chosen One bit was kind of a mistake, really. Especially the virgin birth bit. It all got a bit silly then, and I think really it was the whole of Star Wars when it originally came out was based on the fact that Luke and Leia were brother and sister, and they both had a bit of it, and they're son of a bloke with a bit of it, with a lot of it. So yeah, the instant thing in the first trilogy was, oh, this is hereditary, and it all became muddied because of the M word and a few other bits.
That's only Anakin's genesis, though, isn't it? That's all that was designed to indicate, and that the virgin birth that might have been in the Jedi prophecy. We don't know that was in the Jedi prophecy, but that's certainly
I'll find out in the next film.
That's certainly the way Shmi read it, and yeah, we might find out in the next film. That's the way Shmi read it. Was there's no father? I don't understand it. But
no, but even Luke says it in Return of the Jedi. My father had it, I have it, and my sister has it.
Yeah,
like he spells it out, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yeah,
that's kind of put the kibosh on the whole thing, doesn't it?
No,
kibosh crystal.
It definitely indicates that the Force is hereditary, and just because the Skywalker lineage really started with Anakin, doesn't mean that it won't pass down. Obviously, it has passed down to Ben, and it's passed through what is effectively a Force muggle with Leia, from what we know right now, or like a Force squib, if you like, to use Harry Potter parlance. But the whole thing with the virgin birth, just to sort of address your concern over that thing, was that Shmi viewed what happened to her as divine, potentially, but we're later told to expect that to be the work of the Sith. That is less about divinity and more about this insidious work of the Sith in the background. So it's actually quite an interesting concept that, we're seeing two sides of this thing all the time, and George never really sort of pins any of it down in the movies. It's all left open for us. It's open to interpretation, isn't it, really? But I think it's quite clearly implied that the Sith had a lot to do with Anakin's creation. So divinity...
Certainly implied strongly, yeah.
Yeah, it's the other side of divinity. All right, Brandon, thank you very much for that. Have we said everything we need to say on that matter? I think we have, haven't we?
I think so.
All right, let's move on to Dan Solo's question then. I'll read this one because I haven't done my next speeder bike.
All right.
All right, from Dan Solo. Hi, Mark and the rest of the gang at Talk Star Wars. I'm Dan Solo at Star Wars Sucker, and my question is about Han Solo and Imperial entanglements. In A New Hope, when Obi-Wan and Luke are trying to catch a ride to Alderaan, Obi-Wan requests to Han that he avoids any Imperial entanglements. This apparently is a real trick and is what will cost them extra. I'm wondering what Imperial boardings a normal day-to-day scenario, or are Imperial boardings a normal day-to-day scenario for Han? Does the request to avoid Imperials altogether put him at significant risk, as it will look like he's running? Will we see this in the Han Solo movie, in brackets, and does he have previous experience of running, hence knowing that it's the real trick and how to price it? I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this one. Thanks, have a great show once again. Cheers, Dan. P.S. I have an interesting concept for next week's show, if I finish it in time, and we'll have a chat with Mark directly to see if he's interested. It's related to a question I asked a few weeks ago. Intriguing. Foreshadowing.
Will you sack the other 3?
Yeah, depends how the rest of this episode goes. Does Han get routinely boarded by the Empire?
I think everybody does.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He did. Yeah, well, he even mentions he's had to use his own smuggling, his little underground
Compartments.
doors. Yeah.
Not for him, for his stuff.
Stuff. So, because he's
I never
boarded.
thought I'd be using them myself.
So, yeah.
But
He's a
I think you're
pirate.
right.
He's a pirate. Arr.
I think there's a bit of both. I think, yes, he probably has been aboard a few times, but he learned real quick about how bad that was for business, and now he uses it as a tool to bring the price up. As just as Dan says.
I think you're right. I think he definitely is trying his luck there. You're an avoid interior stuff. That's quite bad. It's quite hard.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Oh, tricky that. Got to tell you what, that's going to be. It's like when a mechanic goes.
Yeah, it's good.
That same kind of it's that same kind of thing. They're preying on the ignorance of the person on the other side of the table.
Yeah, the farmer and the old man.
Yeah. Luckily for him, Obi-Wan's so desperate to get off planet.
Yeah, it's like when he says the Imperial Entanglements line. If he hadn't have said that and he'd waited for Obi-Wan to say, "It's just me and Luke and 2 droids," then he could have done that. Oh well, now droids, that changes things. Because I really don't like droids, and he would have found a way to put a premium on any part
anything
of the request.
Right, yeah, I mean, Obi-Wan is the worst punter in the world. Like, doesn't Han say 14,000, and he goes, "We'll give you 15 now and 2 when we reach order." And like, 17,
it's the other way. No, it's the other way around. That's a terrible deal for them.
What does he say?
2,000 now and 15 when we reach Alderaan.
And what was the original money that he asked for?
10.
It was 10.
It was 10.
Like, why didn't he just say, "Well,
Ben knows
I'll
what's
give you 2
coming
now and 8 when we he'd have gone, all right."
Ben's got Force vibes, man.
Well, there's not just
Ben
that.
knows what's coming.
There's an argument to be made for that, but it really is a lot simpler, isn't it? They've only got $2,000 or 2,000 credits. So if
that's true,
if we're rescuing a princess.
Han says,
Yeah, but he could have haggled a bit.
What's haggling, Steve? Han's going to say it's cost you 10,000, and then Obi-Wan says, "I'll give you 2." He's like
an hour later.
No, he should have said, "I'll give you 2
later,
and 8 when we reach the place."
What?
He wants
That's a
the
terrible
shit.
deal.
No, he's
10 up front.
He's sweetening the pot, isn't he? He's making it.
Yeah.
He's making it impossible for Han to
And
say
he's
no.
just cut someone's fecking arm off.
You bet I could.
Tenuous.
I'm not such a bad pilot myself. He should have lopped Han's head off, because Han's going to die anyway. Spoiler alert.
Actually, you think about it. Ben shot first.
So lop Han's head off, like singe some of Chewie's hair. He'd be like, "Why not? I'm not having that." And then nick the shit. Luke's such a good pilot.
At least
himself.
Han wouldn't have died in TFA then, would he? So.
Yes, exactly. And he'd gone out nobly in a
Anyway,
booth in a stupid cantina.
Nobly, after we'd known him for 3 minutes. All right, so part of Dan's question is, will we see any of this in the Han Solo movie?
I hope so, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
I really want to see this stuff. I really want to see.
They're kind of going to market this, like you say. It might be a little tongue in cheek. It's going to have a little bit of a Western vibe and a little bit of a Pirates vibe going against it. I think we're going to see all sorts of stuff.
I like that.
And to be honest, I was a bit really. I wanted to see Han and I wanted to see Donald Glover doing a Lando thing. But to be honest, right now I'm after a breath of fresh air and something that doesn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah.
I want to see a whole film about storing items on the Millennium Falcon and customs inspections, like almost like a documentary.
Passport, border,
like border control.
All done handheld with GoPros.
Yeah.
Got Nigel Farage.
Not exactly exciting, but once you turn it on, you might as well watch it.
I've run out of drink. Stop it.
Okay, Dan, thank you very much, and we'll wait with bated breath for your suggestion for next week's show. Get it to me early, though, because I do like to build this show well in advance. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Let's move on to Kyle at Tumbling Saber. We've only got a couple more. Rob, would you like to take this one?
I can do, but I'm going to be back on later on for Connor's Corner, aren't I?
Steve.
Yeah,
you take it?
Yeah, Steve, you take that one then. Take Kyle's.
I'm Mark, Rob, Paul and Steve. And finally, somebody mentions us all. Well done, Kyle at Tumbling Saber.
He knows.
He knows
gets
the
it.
score. Piggybacking off of one of last week's questions, I've been wondering about young Jedi hopefuls. In our world where people enter military service, a prestigious school or a sports academy, not everyone makes it through. Washouts and dropouts aren't sent home with a gift basket, are they? I think we assume that every youngling the Jedi take in eventually mature into an upstanding Jedi Knight or even Masters. This can't be the case, can it? There's no way that they have a 100% conversion rate, do they? Is it as simple as whatever tests, studies and trials they put in front of younglings and Padawans, ensuring their successful ascent to Knight, or they die trying? Or do they have to deal with the reality that some kids just can't hack it, despite the M-word count? So what happens to washouts? So they sent home. That seems unwise. Populating the galaxy with half-trained, force-sensitive people seems to be a good way to give rise to your enemies, doesn't it? As always, can't wait to hear your take on this. Keep up the great work and long live the SWC Star Wars Commonwealth. Cheers, Kyle. Breakdown. What happens to little scroats that can't act and don't get killed by their Jedi Masters?
That is not the official breakdown.
Not really, no.
But
It's
what
some sort of
does happen
breakdown.
to those scroats? Paul, let's start.
Just said scroats.
Right.
Paul, let's start with you. What happens to Jedi School dropouts?
I don't think it exists.
Jedi
I'm
School
sorry.
dropout.
I don't think it happens. I think they do concentrate on them and they work on them and work on them and work on them because being having anything to do with the Force, generally, it's how can I word it? It's not a gift you give up on.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Unless they specifically say, I don't want to do this, because you've got people like Maz who are Force sensitive but don't actually use the Force in the same way. So I don't think when it comes to Jedi School, you've made a commitment, by the way, you're doing this for life. There's no blah, 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 and away we go. So I'm not entirely sure that happens, to be honest.
I know exactly what happens.
But it would be really cool to see one in a situation, wouldn't it?
There are some examples, and we'll come to those.
So why ask
we'll
me
come
if
to
you
those
know?
No. There are examples of exactly what you've just said, and I will just clarify those in a moment. Steve?
I think it's like James Bond, Goldfinger. They go, okay, well, we tried, but it's really nice. Thanks. This lady's going to show you out. Thanks for coming. And then they eject them out the bottom of a plane. And that's it. Because they don't want the secrets given out. They don't want them rampaging across the galaxy
Like
with silly
a Men in Black blinky thing. Yeah?
semi-choking everyone with a semi-choky force grab. Not going to work. People have really sore throats everywhere. That kid nearly choked me.
So you think the Jedi rob out the kids that don't make it? That's very, very dark.
Yeah, those ones in that room that day when Anakin came along, they just happened to be right on board.
They had it coming.
They'll keep them in the same class.
Yeah. I don't think that happens.
Well, no, then on a serious note, I think they concentrate on their abilities until they succeed. And they're good enough at it already that they know which ones can make it or not, apart from Anakin, because he's a bit old to start the training. But generally, they know exactly what they're in for and they stick with them and get them through. And then Order 666 kills them all anyway. Great.
Rob?
I mean, I'm kind of with these guys. I think they don't. I find it difficult to believe that they would just kind of send them back to their parents with like, your little one's rubbish.
Yeah, or a little dunce, a little pointed hat with a D on it.
Exactly.
They give you a school report.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe that's who JD is. No, that's not right, is it? It's DJ.
DJ, yeah. Good effort.
Thanks.
Only half right.
Who's wearing the D cap now?
Ooh,
Who's wearing the J cap, Mark?
who's got control over the edit? Oh, look at me. Rob, finish your thought about having Jedi dropouts.
I agree with these guys. You know, I think they persevere. I think the whole point of them choosing the kids when they're young is they've got time.
Yeah,
You know, I think they've got more time to work on this stuff if, in that situation, they can kind of, you know, if the kid is, I mean, if the kid's like really beyond crap, maybe they might be tempted to sort of.
Yeah, but wouldn't they just give him a job in the temple or something like that stupid librarian woman?
Yeah,
possibly. She's probably not Force sensitive.
That is exactly the point I was going to make. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think the old Yeller thing where they take them out back behind the shed and put a bullet in them. I think that's probably a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, that's the story Yoda tells people. Where did those
Yeah,
other
I'm not
students
feeling-
go? Oh, they've
You'd
all
be
gone to
gutted
the
if you-
farm. They've gone to live on a farm
I
somewhere.
definitely don't think they're gutted.
You'd be gutted if you went on Forcebook and told all your mates you were going to become a Jedi, and then like 3 weeks later you got a picture of you with a mop and bucket.
Yeah.
I don't think they can technically be gutted because of the cold heat of a lightsaber. It would cauterize them. Anyway, I'm with you. I don't think there are dropouts, Jedi school dropouts. I think that Jedi is a way of life, and there are degrees of success. Not everyone's going to become a Yoda or a Mace Windu. Some of them will be happy just to sort of plod along as a yellow belt and make their contribution to the greater good in their own way.
Greater good.
And I think there are, like Steve pointed out, there are positions within that machine that need, like Jocasta Nu in the library. There are other people in there that need to keep the ships working, all that stuff. They might start out as promising Jedi and then end up gravitating towards different roles within the Jedi Order. They don't all have to be knights and warriors, do they? There are other things in there. But one thing we did see, Paul, I said I'd point out, one is Ahsoka Tano walks away from the Jedi Order before becoming a Jedi Knight because she's disillusioned.
What they don't do is go after
She's
her.
grey, isn't she?
She would be grey if she was trying to record this podcast this evening because I'm going grey. No, we don't know. We don't know really yet how to qualify Ahsoka. We know she's got the white blades. We know that she's somewhere in the middle, but we don't really know. They haven't sort of labelled that thing yet. The only real Jedi school dropouts that we know of are the Lost 20.
Yeah.
The Jedi that left, like Dooku, who from the Jedi perspective in the movies is a guy that just left the Jedi Order. And he's not a killer. He's not, they say he just doesn't have that in him in episode 2. They don't realise that he's gone over.
Okay, so it's a case of the individual giving up, not the realm giving up.
Yeah, not the Jedi facility, not the church itself. They don't give up on people. They'll train them to the best of their ability. They'll make you the best Jedi you can be, but you don't have to be Yoda. And then if you want to walk away, you can walk away.
Right.
Yeah, like the Lost 20. So I think that's kind of a cool question, Cole. Thank you very much. Anyone want to add anything to that before we move on to Katie's question?
No, it's all good.
We've got a very, very quick one from Katie. So she says, back with a question this week. I asked this on Tumbling Saber on their most recent episode. What is your favourite character arc / journey in Star Wars? I personally love Anakin's character arc throughout the whole saga, minus The Force Awakens, of course. He starts out as an innocent boy on Tatooine who wants to leave his life of slavery and go on to the big adventure. When he finally gets his opportunity, he struggles through all sorts of things like attachments, his arrogance and fear of losing people, which ultimately leads him down the path to the dark side. The hero's tragic fall. Then throughout the OT is as nasty as they come, but in Jedi we get an inkling of him wanting to reconnect with his son, even if that means turning his son to the dark side. This leads to the redemption when he overthrows the Emperor to save his son, which goes to prove there was good in him all along. Absolutely love Anakin's whole character arc. So, chaps, who has your favourite arc in all of Star Wars?
Luke.
I'm with you there. I'm with that completely. Do you want to expand on why?
Well, I think from what I said earlier, it is a Skywalker saga, and Anakin, although he's a Skywalker, obviously, Luke. It all starts with Luke. You know him when he was a child, or a young adult. You're following through. You see his powers developing for good. He's on the light side, which is always kind of more attractive. You always root for the light guy. Not that you don't for Darth, but he's not wearing a mask. You can personalize with him a lot more. And he was, when I was young, everyone wanted to be Luke, really. Han was cool, but you saw Luke in yourself a lot more.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think I've heard someone say Han's the character you want to be, but Luke is the character you are, because you start off as Luke starts off as the character we identify with. He's kind of powerless. I want to go and collect the power converter. His uncle's like, no, you do your job. That's kind of where we all were. We all felt disenfranchised as kids. So that's why I love Luke's arc, because it showed someone going from a state of complete powerlessness to a position of independence, and he runs the full gamut of trials in between. That's the hero's journey. That's what I fell in love with as a kid, and I don't think that they've topped that yet. Hopefully they'll get some of the way there with Rey, but I don't think that they've topped it yet. Rob?
In addition to the ones that have already been talked about, Lando. I like Lando.
I love
because he starts off, a kind of sympathetic character, then he becomes a bit of a git, but he doesn't go all the way git. Like he's kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time, and then he ends up redeeming himself almost immediately, and then he ends up becoming kind of a part of the team. I like that.
Yeah, it's really nice, and it's compact and simple, isn't it?
Exactly, and you never need to have him turn up in future trilogy films again. It doesn't matter, because his thing is resolved.
It's nice as well that you never really lose sympathy with Lando. I know you said, I'm assuming that you're being humorous when you say he's a bit of a git, because the situation he was put in was pretty rough on him, and I don't think you ever truly lose sympathy for Lando, because he is only a git for a small portion of that film. When you look at it,
he's not exactly Mr. Samaritan, is he, in the Death Star?
No, it's true.
No.
He's up for what he can get.
He goes through some growth.
I'm sure we'll see what shaped those two guys into those characters in this new movie next year. Paul, have you got another? I know you say Lando, but is there another one?
Yeah, but mine's more incidental. It's not actually a character building arc. It's just characters, and I'm always going to be in love with 3PO and R2. Everything from jumping off the blockade runner down to Tatooine, being bought, moving on, this new owner, the whole story, the Death Star, all the stuff through Empire. R2 and 3PO. I like the way they are constantly almost as important on the outside looking in as they are on the inside looking out all the time.
Yeah, that's a great call, because they really are window on this whole thing, aren't they? I know everyone sort of talks about R2 being the one telling the story. He's the only one with total recall by the end of the whole thing. And it is really, they're a great choice as well, Paul, because you've got R2 as the stalwart hero. He heads into these things completely focused, completely driven to get
one of the bravest.
One of the bravest, with absolutely no concern from the moment we meet him in Phantom Menace. If you look at these things chronologically, he does this stuff with completely no, without his own interests at heart.
Yeah, he's the ultimate in loyal dog.
But then his partner is like 3PO is
cynical,
accidentally just being
cowardly.
He's being pulled through this thing, and he's kind of ignorant to what's going on. Really, he doesn't realise the situation until he's well and truly in it. And I love that combination.
Yeah.
They're so different visually, and they're so different in terms of characters, but they don't really work independent of each other, because you want them to be together when they're not together. And it's beautiful as well when they get the little reunion scenes, especially in Empire, when they're finally thrown back together. There's so much affection there. That's a great choice. What a fantastic choice that was. Katie, I hope some of that sort of rung a bell with you. Another speeder bike?
And speeder that time.
Speeder bus, I think that was.
It was speeder bus. All right, that sounds like a good cue for a break. Thank you everyone for your emails this week. We're going to head off to our quick break now. When we come back, we're going to slip into Connor's corner. Oh my. We'll be right back. If you'd like to support what we do here at Talk Star Wars, you can do so by becoming a TSW sponsor. For as little as £1 per month given securely via PayPal, you'll help us keep the lights on here at Talk Star Wars. When you become a TSW sponsor, we will automatically make you a TSW VIP. As a VIP, you'll get access to an exclusive stream of content that provides you with a daily podcast called the TSW Kessel Run, membership to the TSW VIP Facebook group, priority releases of shows such as the TSW Toy Box and TSW Comics. You'll also get priority access to the TSW Feature Com series and weekly Facebook Live and AMA sessions. There are also newsletters and a monthly prize draw. Head to talkstarwars.co.uk/support and become a TSW sponsor today, and the Force will be with you always.
And we're back. So you've just heard how you can become a Talk Star Wars VIP by going to talkstarwars.co.uk/support, just like Connor did. And as is customary, it's time for Connor's Corner featuring Leo. And Connor writes thusly. Nailed it. One take.
Perfect.
Boom.
My friends, I hope this email finds you all in good health. So this week I thought something different and light-hearted. Plus, I'd like to see what crazy avenues it goes down. We always enjoy that. Some of the best TSW moments have come from the tangents and rabbit holes you go down. I'm sure you'd agree. So Leo and I were out for a drive earlier today, and we were behind a van with the reg plate G50NK. I've sent photographic evidence as proof. I do hope the driver of the van was a Star Wars fan, and it was a subtle reference that only fans would get, or was Matt Keegan in Northern Ireland this week? Anyway, here goes. You can have a Star Wars-themed car with its own personalised reg plate. What would it be? The character and car don't have to be the same. If we know you lot by now, I bet we get some really obscure ones and some damn right crazy ones. I personally would love a Dumb and Dumber Mutts Cut style Wookiee wagon and the reg CH3W1E. Thanks, guys. We look forward to hearing where this goes. Your friends Connor and Leo. May the Force be with you all, my friends. P.S. This one is for the whole Commonwealth, also have fun with it. This email was brought to you by the Imperial Painter Corps. You wanted grey? Call today.
He does that
Very
announcer
good.
voice, doesn't he?
Oh, he does. He does.
Oh, I like Mark's one.
Hopefully he listens to the TSW Toy Box podcast. Or the TSW Toy Run. Or I've got none. That's all I got.
Well, what was
For now.
there was good.
Yeah, for now.
You can see my choice in the show notes if you download the show notes this week. My choice of car, which I think is pretty awesome, and the obvious number plate that I'm going to go for. I'll get to the reasons why in a second. But guys, what have you got?
I've got nothing. I'm still trying to think of it.
Okay.
But I never read the show notes. I should have read them earlier.
If only someone would have emailed them to you. Oh, no.
I know.
Wait.
I know. It's just what I was thinking. I guess I'd have an MG Midget, which is a little car that looks like a kind of land speeder.
Oh,
In
yeah.
kind of a dirty brown. And then I would probably have 3PO R2D2 or something like that. Or, I can't do moisture, because like a moisture evaporator. That would have been cool.
How long is your number plate? It's not 3 foot wide.
No, yeah, moist.
Oh,
Moist
goodness.
one.
Moist
There you go. Moist one.
All right, Paul wants to send an image. Let's see
Oh, dear.
where this goes. Oh, that's
It all
superb.
starts.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's
Okay, I'll
Photoshop,
take it
right?
back.
That is great, though. I like that.
I don't think that is Photoshop.
It has to be, doesn't it?
So,
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, no, that's only an example. What I'm thinking of, like an R2D2 Volkswagen Caravan,
oh, yes.
that'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be
And
cool.
what would it have?
That's awesome.
What would the license plate be?
R2D2.
Wow.
Oh, you're flying a little close to the sun there,
What
mate.
about 4RTO?
Oh, yeah, no, that's really good.
R2. Yeah, that would
Yeah,
be better. Yeah, that's
that
good.
does
I
work.
like that.
Rob,
Isn't this called
Hello.
Leet Speak? It is, isn't it?
what's it called?
As in 7337. That idea of spelling things out with numbers, using numbers as letters and vice versa, is called Leet Speak. I
Oh,
think.
really?
Yeah, but it's Leet spelt 7337.
Gotta take you to a pub
Sorry,
quick
733.
Seriously.
I can't do Leet Speak, obviously. But if you Google it, it is Leet Speak. I'm sure of it. But don't do it now while we're live on a podcast, because it will just create weird silences.
Like that one. Rob,
Hello.
what would your car be and what would your reg
I
be?
don't know about the car itself.
Would it be a speeder bike?
Yeah, why not? It'd be a speeder bike, and obviously, as you've got a smaller number plate space, it would be OB1.
Oh, nicely done. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, done.
Yeah, well played.
Romeo done.
Can I just jump in, Mark?
Why not?
Originally, in the early 1980s, Leet Speak, spelt 1337, was first used by hackers as a way to prevent their website news groups from being found by simple keyword searches. Leet Speak grew and became popular, and it is now used everywhere on the internet. Like, an example would be 80770CK5.
Yeah,
That's more of a it's more of a joke for English people, but I'm sure you'll get it even if you are from the other side of the pond.
Okay.
Indeed. You love ponds.
I
love ponds.
My image, which is in the show notes, is a life-size, a real-world version of the Star Wars Hot Wheels Darth Vader car.
Nice.
And I used to watch this TV show on I can't remember what, I think it was Discovery. It was called Rides. It used to be on a Saturday. Sometimes they do a whole
like
marathon.
Cribs.
Like Cribs, but it was called Rides. And it was
I gave it that, thank you.
There was a chap on there named Chip Foose, who was a custom car designer, and he would just, like, people would come along and just say, just design me a one-off car, and he would just build it from the ground up. He wouldn't take a car and modify it.
Start with the wheels.
Just literally build everything from scratch. And
it wouldn't start from the ground up then.
Wait a minute.
Where's that tumbleweed?
I'm
trying to Google a picture of a tumbleweed.
You guys should be thankful as all hell that I'm cheerful.
Yeah.
You're always cheerful.
You've made it tough.
So this Chip Foose guy, he used to do these one-off mods like this Vader thing. He'd build life-size versions of Hot Wheels cars, and they were just stunning. So I would like to get my hands on something like that. And
I thought it was a Batmobile.
THX 1138, it would have to be that, because not only is that one of the numbers that are made famous by Star Wars, but it was John Milner's registration number in American Graffiti, or at least it was THX 138 in American Graffiti, because they can only have six numbers on the reg. So that would work for me, and I like this car. I think it's awesome, and no one would know what it was supposed to be just by looking at it on the street.
No, you'd never even think about it, would you? Go, that's a normal-looking car.
Yeah,
got hit by it, and you were sort of sailing into the air. You'd probably go, "Oh, cool!" as you crashed to the ground, but otherwise, not so much.
That was the last thing you saw.
What's his name again? The guy? I want to Google him.
I don't know.
Chip Foose, FOOSE.
There's a Skyrim joke in there somewhere, but
yeah, all these cars you're putting in there, Paul, they're awesome. That land speeder thing is from the Disney parks. That's part of the every day they do like a convoy around
parade.
A parade, yeah. And
they go rocking through the night.
It might.
The great big convoy.
Yeah. Rubber duck. Oh, I've done that thing again with the Skype app. Oh, I hate this app. Okay, let's move on to some Star Wars news while Steve quietly and discreetly looks up Chip Foose. Thank you, Connor and Leo, and thank you, Matt Keegan, for driving around Northern Ireland in your Gonk Droid van. So let's look at the future of Star Wars. Kathy Kennedy has confirmed more Star Wars stories, with the next project being nailed down by June, with a possible D23 announcement. That wasn't stated by Kathy. That was just something that we've all agreed is probably going to happen. But will there be another saga movie or any more saga movies? Lucasfilm will yet to decide if there will be another trilogy at all. Do you expect there to be more saga trilogies or Skywalker movies?
I don't think they need to.
No.
Well, I can't imagine them doing it, because wouldn't they need an alternate Luke, and it wouldn't work? That
Why?
Makes sense?
No, it doesn't. Why?
Well, I was thinking of filling in periods of time like between Empire and Jedi.
Oh yeah, no, I think they could do that. And
yeah, but how would they do it without Luke?
You couldn't
Stan.
Yeah, I mean, you could recast it with someone like Sebastian Stan, who I think we've all agreed looks a little bit like Marc. But you could also
Yeah.
You could also
CGI
do
it out.
you could do it in animation, couldn't you?
Yeah.
If
Well,
you-
no, or mocap with Luke doing it, but and then CGI his face so he's not so haggard.
Yeah, I think we'd spoken years ago before the Lucasfilm acquisition during one of our movie nights when we used to put a film on and talk all the way through it, and which we should have recorded. Really, that would have been ideal. We'd said way back then that the way they could do another Star Wars trilogy would be to animate it in the style of Beowulf. That kind of. I know that now that's sort of.
Final Fantasy, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a little bit less than impressive now with the.
Yeah, it's like the old Nintendo Emotion Engine kind of situation.
Yeah, and that was kind of what I saw working for future Star Wars films, was to pick up with young Han, Luke, and Leia, but have them all just animated in a photorealistic way. I mean, now we've seen that they can really get away with that. Goodness me,
That was cool.
that's Han.
When they come round,
That was
Tatooine,
Mark's
whenever
car.
Yeah.
Whenever the pod racers come round the corner, it's like. Carry on, Mark.
No, that was it. That I was just thinking they could possibly animate it. So do you think, Steve, what you're thinking of saga movies, you're thinking of telling stories in between what have already come out, yes?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I always think. There are lots of gaps that need filling, or not need filling, but would be brilliant to fill.
Yeah.
No, oh my, all of a sudden.
Actually, I still want the Old Republic. Like I said, I'd like to see the really, really early days.
Well, then you could start with a whole new set, couldn't you?
Which I've got no problem with.
Our trouble is with putting an animation between two real-life films is that it all gets very fractious, doesn't it?
Well, they've done it really, haven't they? With the Clone Wars, they've told Obi-Wan and Anakin's story between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. They've already done it, and it works. And not everyone has to indulge in it to still be able to enjoy and understand the films. But it's just there. It's just additional stuff. Like, you don't need a story after Return of the Jedi and before The Force Awakens. But you could have a dozen movies in there if you wanted, if they could turn them around inexpensively enough as animated films, then why not?
Isn't it a shame? Like, got me thinking. Isn't it a shame that Lucas didn't just carry on making one film after another? I know the actors were all off Ham was off doing his own thing, Harrison Ford. But wouldn't it have been wonderful? Because they're cash cows, so you haven't got that to worry about. Like, after Jedi, 2 years later, right, next one, and just whack them out like they're doing now. We'd have had so much Han, Luke, and Leia, we would have been sated for life.
George had different priorities. He had a young family that he wanted to focus on. He'd not long been divorced. He wanted to play in the Indiana Jones world a little bit more,
Which was a true love of his.
Yeah, so he'd done his Star Wars thing, got it out of his system. He'd said in numerous interviews that he wanted to return to Star Wars at some point in his career and tell the stories that he'd put on the shelf, which he did and had enormous success with, and not just financially, but in terms of being able to develop new filmmaking techniques and new facilities and new technology. And so the guy's had a storied career. He would have been George Lucas, who just made more Star Wars films. If he hadn't have put Star Wars down, that's all he would have been known for. And now he's got this enormous legacy. So it's probably a good decision for him to have made. But I like what you're saying, Steve. I would like to see some of those stories after Return of the Jedi, and I'd be happy to see them in whatever form they take. And I think they'd qualify as a saga movie, even if they were standalone films. I think because they cover those characters, they would still qualify.
What about you, Rob?
What's that?
What's your take, or have you already said it?
No. I don't know. I think my feeling on it hasn't really changed from the last time I talked about it, which is that I felt that they could do saga movies, but they don't have to restrict themselves to trilogies. They can they can basically just pick how many they need for the story they need to tell. So in the same way as, to bring it back to another example, Harry Potter, the series has 8 movies, but one of them is a 2-part book. So you can pick and choose how many you use to tell the story you want to tell. If it takes 2, you do 2. And that also means that it might be film directors who want to collaborate together and writers who want to collaborate together, and they might want to tell a 2-part story between them. And it gives them freedom to do that. So I think they can restrict, they can simultaneously free themselves and give themselves some kind of light restrictions by not limiting themselves to definitely doing trilogies or not doing trilogies.
Yeah. It's also Star Trek did that as well, Rob. They had like every movie was kind of standalone.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But was it 2, 3, and 4 formed kind of a trilogy?
It did have a thread of continuity.
There was continuity, but with many of them, you kind of pick up with the characters after some downtime. But 2 kind of fed into 3 because of Spock's death, and then 3 really had a massive Klingon.
What? Sorry,
a massive cliffhanger,
right?
Which led into the voyage home. So there was a lot of movies there, like 11 movies or something they did. But there was a trilogy in there that didn't really stand on their own. That could be what we see from future Star Wars films. Tell one that's wrapped up, and then tell a different story with a sequel, and then another film, and then a trilogy. It could definitely work. There's no reason why it wouldn't. Paul, do you predict that they will do more saga films, as in another trilogy?
I don't. I think they're gonna. The safe bet for them is to not be committal. That makes sense, because you're thinking about the dollar, and they can throw a little bit more in the manner of sort of budget into a standalone and see how it does, and then a little bit more into. So instead of saying, okay, we've got to pay for 3 films and do X, Y, Z, let's pay for 1.5 films and let's put a bit more productivity into it. And I'd rather they put 150% effort into a good standalone than 100% effort into another trilogy as such. That said, like I said, I'd love to see story of the birth of the Jedis and everything else, the really old realms of the old Republic and stuff. That'd be cool. And I doubt that's the situation you'd probably get in a standalone. So,
probably true.
Yeah, that's a good point actually, because that story might be a little bit too big to get away
quite
with
biblical.
Just one movie.
But I'd rather see more effort required for a really good standalone than an acceptable trilogy. I would say acceptable. That sounds rude. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
I don't think a trilogy is a necessity at the moment.
Okay. All right. Let's. I think Steve's just popped off to deal with something. He will be back in a moment.
He's got a banter problem, I think.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yes.
Hashtag catsick. So let's get into Last Jedi news. So, as we always do every week, we will give a slight warning that some of this stuff could possibly be considered spoilers. Some of these things are coming out from Making Star Wars, which is where we get a lot of our stories. They're being confirmed left, right, and centre now through different media. So spoilers lie ahead for both Last Jedi and Han Solo. If you want to jump out now, we'll understand. And we will see you again next week. Here is the first thing. Many of MakingStarWars.net's reports have been confirmed by a selection of leaked Lego set images. Is that what you're trying to put into the feed there, Paul?
Mm-hmm. Have a look-see, sir.
They've been pulled down, have they?
I'll let your page down.
It doesn't surprise me. So a selection of Lego images came out on this website, which Paul's trying to load up. I can't remember what it's called. Something to do with Lego. So the Gorilla Walker and Snoke make an appearance on the box art, and you guys cannot see that now, can you?
I've seen them.
You've seen them already?
I can see the Star Wars box art. I can't see. Is that what was in the other images?
Yeah, I think there's someone on my site actually. In an article, you'll see the header image, which is the AT-AT Walker, Gorilla Walker. So, as Jason put in his piece, there are some elements of these box designs that probably can't be taken too literally, like the inclusion of Rey on crate with the AT-AT Walker or the new style heavy Walker attack. She most likely won't be there, but she's been included on the artwork for the box of the toy to just illustrate sort of play value and get that minifig into the set, get that out there. And in my article on Talk Star Wars, I put an image of the whatever year, 1980 Kenner, maybe it was 81, the Kenner AT-AT from back in the day, the Empire Strikes Back toy, and it had the action figures for the droids and Leia and Han all in battle with the AT-ATs, which clearly isn't a representation of what happened in the movie.
Oh, sure.
But does demonstrate playability. But one thing you can't argue with are the designs of those characters, because we've seen some of those elements in the trailers already, like the Rey's look is actually on the other toy box art, isn't it, with the hair design and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I find these sorts of things really interesting, that this is how we're getting information from toy packaging. I find it really intriguing. What do you guys think of, well, what you can see in terms of these photographs, because obviously some have been pulled down, and what do you think of that being the way we're getting these leaks confirmed?
It's quite funny, actually.
It's very, it is, very much so.
I mean, they're toys. So first and foremost, but you've got to look at it from a kid's point of view. From a kid's point of view, they're going to be like, "Oh wow, who's this and who's that?" No, it's exciting and so on. So that's absolutely fine. It gets the palate wet, like you say. Yeah. From an adult's point of view, it's just a little Easter egg, if you like, on a box. So I've got no problem with it at all. Mm. Oh, who was that I just saw? BB9.
Yeah.
BB-8.
There's a little black BB-8.
BB-8. Yeah,
I saw that on Reddit, and I'm so disappointed that you can only upvote things once on Reddit, because that would have got all of my upvotes forever. BB-8 is amazing.
Yeah, see, I actually sent Jason a message just to sort of congratulate him on a job well done, because over the past sort of year or so, he's been steadily feeding out these little bits of information, and the black BB-8 units was one of those pieces of information that came out ages and ages ago. And he is so fastidious, Jason, in nailing down these things and never reporting on it until he's absolutely certain what he's being told or what he's seeing is accurate. And he gets a lot of flack from people online for being a gatekeeper or for running things that may or may not be true. He got a lot of abuse this week over these Han Solo podcar images and video.
Oh, okay.
And I just wanted him to know that as a fan, looking at the work that he's putting out, it reassures me, because I'm calling back on it a lot in these podcasts and on the daily podcast, the Kessel Run. I'm doing a lot of referencing to making Star Wars because I have so much confidence in what they're putting out. And these little leaks now are just confirming one thing after the next that have appeared on MSW and are now being revealed as being a thing. Like the design of Snoke, for example, where they mentioned recently that Snoke would have the gold robes and jester slippers and all that stuff. And
one thing I will say is I don't think we should read too much into the size of him in relation to other characters.
No,
because Lego historically have kept characters pretty much the same
in size, right? Yeah, I was just going to ask, because I saw Kyle mention this as well in the Facebook group about Chewbacca. Is the Chewbacca Lego minifig much larger than like the Vader and I've got on my shelf behind me, I've got a Darth Vader standing next to a Stormtrooper. They're exactly the same size. So what we're being told is that he's like 7 feet tall and is going to be a puppet in this movie. And that minifig looks exactly the same size as the other minifigs, doesn't it? So,
I think it's just it's probably a reflection of what he's going to be dressed like. Although it's a little bit gold member. Somebody pointed out on Twitter, which I quite enjoyed.
Brilliant.
Hopefully he'll offer Ray a schmuck and a pancake.
Bong and a crepe.
Hopefully that's the case. And Luke will be. I can't abide people who are disrespectful of other people's sins, and the Dutch. Snoke's from Holland. That's what it is. That's the twist. He's actually from modern day Holland. Don't ask me how.
I love these images. I can't wait to see what Rob Phillips does with these Lego sets with actual decent photographs. He's a master. All right, let's move on to. I'm not sure when Steve is going to return. I don't know how much sick that cat had in it, but he's back. Super.
It had a lot of sick in it.
Oh, nice.
It wasn't sick on me, although the other one, it wasn't that cat, it was another cat.
Oh.
He bolted his food down and then decided, actually, I want to eat this again.
Keep an eye on
it up
that. It
everywhere.
sounds like he might have a bit of a disorder. All right, we're going to move on from the Lego talk to some of these bits. Right now, since writing some of these notes, these statements by Pablo have been reframed and then reframed again. So there's going to be a bit to talk about here around the way this information came out as well, not just what's involved. So Gwendolyn Christie, we've heard that Captain Phasma's face, this is from Pablo apparently at this Comic-Con in Chile, Gwendolyn Christie may be seen under the Captain Phasma helmet in The Last Jedi. Mm-hmm. Now, Pablo may have stated at the Comic-Con that we will see Phasma without the helmet, but she won't look like the Gwendolyn Christie on the front of Vanity Fair. She will look somehow different, and everyone's sort of saying
Scarred.
Battle scars.
Absolutely, that stands to reason, right? That she
she might be an alien.
Well, this is the other thing. See, now this is really important because Rob, what do we know about the Empire?
They're xenophobic in terms of alien species, with exceptions, because like Thrawn is an exception.
Yeah.
But generally, they're not big fans of alien life forms.
No, they're
very much humanoids.
Which is why the Dianoga was in a dustbin.
That's it.
Yeah, because he was going for his lieutenant's badge, but
that's it. Yeah, and they were just like, you.
He also dumped out of Jedi school.
He's just.
You told us in your interview you were humanoid.
He was wearing just a trench coat and a fedora, trying to
or like a cape, really, just a little tied cape.
Two small children in a long coat. What are we doing?
Yeah, it was interesting to think that the First Order might be taking their lead from the Empire in this way and having a completely human rule imposed upon their conscripts, but we haven't seen any non-humans so far in The Force Awakens. It doesn't mean that Gwendolyn Christie isn't going to whop that helmet off and there'll be something else under there. Probably not like a Rhodian or anything.
I think most likely it's going to be battle scars or like she had a dodgy eye, like a bionic eye or something.
Oh, that'd be cool. That's
bionic limbs. We don't see a lot of those in apart from arms. We don't really see any other.
But bionic eye would look like a Borg.
Yeah, I think maybe a patch, maybe like an eye patch or.
Yeah, I think in Star Wars universe you'd want you could have a bionic eye, couldn't you? It's not a big deal.
It'd be pretty cool if she was one of the decraniated.
Oh, I doubt that. I think that'd be a bit of a stretch.
That would be horrifying, wouldn't it, to see that in one of the main characters? No, I'd like.
Especially like you imagine the kid watching it, and she takes the helmet off, and it's like, the bit came off with it.
Yeah,
I'll check the inside of the helmet.
Or there's no head at all, and it's just a stump.
Or it's the little guy from Men in Black piloting a gigantic body.
That's it,
Gwendolyn Christie.
It's a real Gwendolyn Christie, but she's got a tiny head.
Like in Beetlejuice when he's sitting in the waiting room.
We've nailed it. Good night, kids.
It won't get any better than that now. No, I think you're right, and I think it's the obvious option in it. Paul, are you on board with the scarred Captain Phasma under that helmet?
I don't think the helmet should come off. It's the only real option, isn't it? It'd be interesting if. What about a droid wearing Stormtrooper's armour?
Yeah, like a 3PO.
Trouble is, Paul, her acting doesn't come across without the helmet off. That because we saw that in Force Awakens, it was so wooden. It was not her fault. You can't act just with the voiceover, can you?
You say that, but that's doing a disservice to the voice actors.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about the character behind Captain Phasma, just Captain Phasma.
Yeah,
that's the thing. I don't think it's necessary to see who Phasma is. Far more menacing not knowing sometimes, the whole...
Like Judge Dredd.
Yeah. I mean, in the comics, Dredd was always an enigma because all you ever saw was the nose and the lips. So.
Yeah, and in the Carl Urban one, we saw that.
We've seen this in Star Wars as well, and it's Boba, right? when we didn't see under that helmet, Boba was cool. But the minute we saw the person, it kind of lost some of its appeal.
But with Darth, it added to it, knowing this pile of mashed potato was in there.
But then that's the whole. We spent the whole trilogy being told he's a machine.
Yeah,
believing
exactly
he's a
right.
machine, and then at the end, it's like, oh no, he is a man, and he's a nice man. Never
For
mind.
me,
Forget all the youngling stuff. That's all water under the bridge, mate. It's all no big.
For me, the Christie thing is like, you've just come off duty, take your helmet off, like you would do, wouldn't you? Stormtroopers wouldn't walk around with their helmets on all day.
But she chastised Finn for doing exactly that in The Force Awakens.
There you go.
Yeah, but weren't they? He was on duty though, wasn't he?
No, she just hadn't given him permission to take his helmet off.
Yeah. I think that what you might see is if we see her in the presence of Hux and Kylo, or maybe just her and Kylo, you might see them. You might see that. You might see the helmet come off because she's sort of standing down,
Bearing up to him or something.
Yeah. Or I think she would be completely sort of submissive around him. Do you not think?
Oh.
No?
No, I think she's Hux's
lapdog.
Hux's lapdog first and foremost. She'd defer to Hux. I think she'd defer to Hux before she deferred to Ren.
Well,
she does on Jakku. Obviously, she's following orders, but you can hear it in her voice, sir, as if it's like, I've got to listen to you because you're the top one here. But actually, I would listen to Hux first.
Oh,
that's my thing. That's my thing.
I like that. Yeah.
Do you think the suit's keeping her alive?
No, I don't think so. It needs to be bulkier and there's no obvious kind of
outward indication of that, but there's definitely she's special in some ways, isn't she?
Oh, maybe she's an android and she's not human at all.
And maybe she's the latest version of whatever those black things are in Rogue One. Because there's something about them that's not quite
very robotic, and that would account for her acting.
They run through, aren't their headsets encrypted?
Yeah, I think so, but aren't they a part also of Tarkin's program?
Not sure.
I think Tarkin was kind of running a program. The droids in the Dr. Aphra comic book are a part of Tarkin's weapons program, and I'm not sure if I think maybe the elite troops, the Death Troopers that Krennic has, are a part of that, and I wonder if maybe Gwendolyn's an extension of Captain Phasma.
Could be.
Captain
Phasma
is an extension of that program, perhaps.
Maybe. Yeah, could be.
And that's why she's so much bigger and she's decked out differently, because she needs to stand apart from the normal rank and file.
Yeah,
that's a reasonable thought, maybe.
Could be.
All right. So some of these comments, Pablo has started to slow walk back anyway. So let's just move on to this interesting little tidbit. So the small beehive huts may not be Jedi huts at all, but they may actually be the huts of the Guardian race, the caretaker race that live on Arc 2.
Okay. Are we led to believe that they're still there, or are they sort of long gone?
Well, in another thing I'd read, it was that Luke was sharing the island with the caretaker race, so it seems to imply that they're still there. And I'm not
sure how I feel about that, because part of the reason I liked the idea of him being isolated on a remote island was that he would be isolated. If he's just got, it's not just him. It's like, Juan, who comes and fixes the tumble dryer, and Jeff, who comes every other Tuesday he comes every other Tuesday to make sure there's ice in the machine.
Enough lemon pledge.
So my idea of Luke going backwards and forwards, just doing housework, and that is totally justified.
because if they're not there anymore.
He's got a servant race.
Yeah, no, but they're taking the day off.
That could have been.
He's cussing and huffing and puffing, and his hands rusty. He's
got a podcast on. No,
I like the idea. In that case, I'd like the idea that the first line he says is,
Mr.
Hey,
Superman, here.
I wish I hadn't let them go, because it's a lot harder than it looks.
Yeah,
they're the real heroes.
The caretaker race. I have had the impression that that's the Porgs that is being referred to, there. These
So
little.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. They're those little cardboard things you used to flip when you were a kid, right?
Yeah, no, not them, but expect a tie-in toy line. They are the things that we initially thought were based on the puffins that live on Skellig Michael Island, but may have been the convery for a little while, but are now definitely their own thing called porgs. But are kind of like a gremlin type puffin thing.
That's horrendous.
I can't imagine would build huts.
Disgusting.
So
I don't know if I want to see that in a kids' film.
Yeah, no, they are supposedly pretty disgusting.
Yeah, it's grim.
So I think, but there's also this rumor about this amphibious nun and this sea beast. I know. There's some
amazing.
Pretty whacked
I
out
take
stuff.
it back. That's awesome.
So I wonder who's on this island with him. Kind of, it's starting to all sound. I mean, Ryan said dark and weird from the get-go, didn't he? And this is all starting to sound very, very weird. So those little beehive things that they recreated, they are actually there on Skellig Michael Island, but they've been recreated also elsewhere, and with care. So I don't know how big a part they're going to play in this, but it would seem that they're not just a throwaway part of the landscape.
Yeah.
Okay, another thing that Pablo said is that both Holdo, which is Laura Dern's character, and DJ are not to be trusted. Okay. In other news, water is wet.
Right.
Holdo, actually, because of her position as Vice Admiral, I think that might actually surprise some people. People that don't read this sort of stuff or follow along the way we do. I wonder if they will be surprised if she turns out to be a little bit of a sneaky one.
Yeah, I think that's the impression I get is it's politics. You know, she's kind of a political figure. She's not a what's the word? She's not
a fighter.
It's not that she's it's not that she's evil or anything like that. She's just a bit of a worm.
She may have taken control because of who she is or who she knows, and not because of what she's capable of. Paul, did you see the image of Holdo in the Vanity Fair? Laura Dern?
No.
You've not seen it?
No,
I haven't either.
Oh, you can. Oh, sorry, Steve. I thought you ducked out.
No, I'm here.
They're on my site, so talkstars.co.uk. You can find the Vanity Fair images. Carrie Fisher's in the header image, and Laura Dern's in there, and she's part of the new military contingent in Last Jedi. But in those images, she's decked out in like a ball gown with pink hair. And I'm wondering if it's all part of this stuff that's going on Canto Bight, because some other images in there show the denizens of Canto Bight, these sort of elitists. And it's supposed to be like Monte Carlo, but in Star Wars. And I wonder if if she's connected to that in some way. And I'm also starting to get the feeling that Snoke might be connected to Canto Bight in some way, because of what the description we've heard of his costume being gold,
elaborate and
red line, jester slippers, and his room is kind of adorned with marble and all that sort of stuff. It all sounds very opulent. And
here's a thought.
Go on.
What if the only people who know that he's dodgy and that he's behind the First Order are the Resistance, and everybody else knows him in some other context?
Yeah, that's
why he's
what
not
I put out on a Kessel Run.
Sorry,
no,
because if you made it a podcast feed, I might be able to listen to it more easily. But unfortunately, because it's on the website, I have trouble because my work is very generous, but not that generous.
No, but that's kind of what I was saying, was that he might be a more public figure, a figure that Han and Leia can talk about openly, because they do in The Force Awakens.
Yeah, sure.
So
they must know who he is.
He must be some sort of public. He must have some kind of public standing. But meanwhile, he sort of ducks behind the curtain and he's funding and coordinating a militia, of which General Hux might be the face, the public face. So I think that's we're starting to see elements of who the real Snoke might be buried in there. So it makes sense, Paul, Steve?
I apologise, I've gone off at a tangent.
That's right. You tangent as much as you need to. You were looking at those images.
I'm looking at these images, and this is a totally different world.
Mouth-watering, aren't they, those?
Yeah, it's just this whole. It's got this different panache. It's almost like a. I can't word it. You know,
you go and have a
it's
look.
almost like a sepia kind of imagery they've been using on this one. Looks like Mr. Johnson's taking the art direction in a very different direction.
Yeah, well, it was by design as well, because we spend so much time in the dusty sort of backward worlds on the outer rim, don't we? With junk and recycled ships and crafts. And now we're seeing where the money is, where the money goes, and they're the characters I think that Rob, you and I would have read about in Bloodline.
Yeah,
there's some of those people, aren't they? Who, to them, politics is more of a hobby.
Yeah,
rather than someone like Leia who is out there fighting for everybody's rights.
Mm-hmm.
These people can dip in and out, make laws and pass laws on a whim because they're worth a fortune and they're never going to go without anything. So,
on a whim. I can't find the picture. I've been looking for 5 minutes now.
On my site?
Yeah.
You found...
I'm on the Vanity Fair pictures.
Right, and what are you looking for?
Laura Dern.
Yes. The pink hairy thing.
She's in there with DJ, is she not?
She's on her own.
With Benicio del Toro. She's embedded on her own, isn't she?
I can see there's 4 pictures. There's Luke and Ray, the Gwendolyn Christie, Kylo Ren,
That's the
other
cover
guy.
art.
In the show chat.
Cover. Okay. Sorry, I'm a bit behind here. Carry on amongst yourself. I'll find it because I really want to have a look. It sounds really
Okay,
awesome.
you carry on. So
in the show chat, Steve. There's a hint.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Cheers, Rob.
So
let's have a look.
While Steve's looking at those, let's move on to this. This is the
Oh wow, that's amazing.
This is the real contentious
really
story
cool.
this week. Luke and Leia will probably reunite in The Last Jedi, but Pablo seemed to confuse a lot of people at this Comic-Con Chile when he apparently said the space siblings Luke and Leia have moments as well. He didn't explicitly state that they would have moments together, though, which is how it was read, but he certainly said the space siblings Luke and Leia have moments as well. And it was a very broken sort of statement because there was some translation going on. And he had an interpreter on stage translating for the audience. So it has left a lot of people confused, with many jumping on board saying, that's it, Pablo's confirmed that Luke and Leia reunite in this movie. And then him walking that statement back saying, no, that's not what I said. It's all very, very confusing, but I think we can all agree that that's most likely going to happen, right? In this film.
It's got to, isn't it? It's got to.
No, it doesn't have to. It's probable.
It needs to, and put it that way.
It's a last chance.
It needs to because of what happened.
Indeed.
No, because they wouldn't have known that. But it needed to make up for any shortcomings of that episode 7. I think, and I think they knew that.
Yeah, I think it needs to because of what happened with Carrie, but that doesn't mean that that's.
They haven't changed anything about episode 8, so they wouldn't have known that they needed to at that point.
No, they wouldn't.
I think they'd have already realised.
But it doesn't change the fact that it does need to.
Yes, no, agreed. But I think their reasoning for doing it would have been like, actually, we need to get the original cast, what's left, back together to have that feeling of Star Wars and all the rest of it.
They can keep you on the edge of your seat till the next episode.
Because I don't want to be on the edge of my seat. I'll be on the edge of my seat
They
until
want you to pay for the next episode.
You're going to hate my suggestion then.
Go on, Rob.
I hate it.
I'm coming to it. It's further down in the show notes. Don't worry.
All right,
it's happening. It's coming. Don't worry.
All right, so further down in the show notes, we're nearly at the end. Is it in the Han Solo section?
No, it's the one before.
Oh,
the one before that. The one about Pablo.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about now, right?
Yeah. Okay. So you want it? So all right. So I'll do it now then. So I talked about this on Twitter in the week that I had a cut of how you could handle Leia's exit from the trilogy in a way that would be in fitting with her character and also satisfying, although heartbreaking for an audience.
Okay.
Now, interestingly enough, since I mentioned on Twitter that I would talk about it at the next opportunity, I've just seen something very similar pop up in the Star Wars speculation subreddit. So I'm not claiming any kind of uniqueness in this. It's not something that, I did think of it before I read this, but at the same time, I'm not under any illusion that I'm the only one who's thought of this and I'm so clever and blah blah blah.
Right.
# I'm very smart or anything like that. So there's something that way back when we talked about, which was that they were saying that Episode 8 would have stuff that we'd never seen before in Star Wars, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Now, one thing I've struggled to think of in terms of something we've seen before in a Star Wars movie is a space battle at the beginning and a space battle at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've ever seen that in Star Wars, to the best of my recollection.
New Hope.
New Hope. No, it doesn't end with. It doesn't start with a space battle. Come on, it starts with a chase. That's not a battle.
They're firing back.
I'm talking about a proper battle. I'm talking about more. All right, like 2 ships or more each. There you go.
Okay.
You think like the Return of the Jedi space battle?
Yeah,
at the
like
beginning
the
and
Battle
at
of
the
Endor,
end?
or like the. Yeah, so you don't have that in Return of the Jedi, right? So you got your, whatever. Here's a way to end Episode 8 that removes Leia from the story in a way that's, like I say, satisfying for viewers, heartbreaking for viewers. It does everything that, even if you walk back the stuff that Pablo didn't say explicitly, it doesn't do it. So it ticks those boxes.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't kind of fall afoul of anything he said or not said. You have, so I've talked before about how I think that you should have an on-screen death without her being in shot. So on a ship, blown up.
Right. Yeah.
Now, poignancy increases when you make that ship blow up as a sacrifice, save the rest of the fleet, much in the same way as Radus inadvertently did in Rogue One.
Yeah.
You have Luke on another ship, and that, for added sadness points, he's just come into the system in time to join the battle. So he hasn't actually reunited with Leia, but they're in the same. They're so close, but they don't get there. And I think that would be cool.
Yeah, I think
that's a good idea. I like it.
Yeah,
I think we are
breaking.
Could use camera tricks to kind of flash back between her and Luke across the different ships, and you could even have it so that maybe they're even.
You might say
like
something to him like he does when he's hanging off the thing on Bespin.
Mm.
Could be. Or, like, I'm thinking, the what's it called? The corridor scene in Force Awakens with Balatic, Han Solo, Chewbacca, and Kanji Club.
Yeah.
Something along those lines, where Luke and Leia are standing in the corridor on different ships connected by some sort of boarding corridor, and she kind of, shuts the door and detaches the ships to go off and sacrifice her ship for the good of the fleet, for the good of the Resistance, because it fits her character. She can make some sort of Carrie Fisher-esque quip about saving Luke, Luke needing saving or something like that. You don't need any CG unless that's not in the, unless they need to tweak it very, very slightly for like in the same way they would do with reshoots if they were to do them. And you don't have to recast in Episode 9, which I'm not in favour of.
No, none of us are, I don't think.
No, well, it's interesting you say that because people I think who I would imagine would be vehemently against it recently have come out in support of it, and I'm really dead set against it. And the reason I'm dead set against it was because when, what's it called? When George came up on stage at Celebration and said that Carrie was Leia, I couldn't agree more.
Mm.
And as a result, and also I would say that anybody who agreed with that at the time and has since come on to recast is kind of walking that back a bit. I'm not going to say completely going back on it, or I'm not going to use anything too anything too evocative as language goes. I just think they're I don't think you can hold that viewpoint and support a recast. I think they're mutually, somewhat mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
So I think.
Do you think there's any legs for her? Sorry, Rob. Do you think there's any legs for her to be a Force ghost? I know technically she isn't a Jedi.
She could do it as a voice.
Yeah, this isn't something I'll put in the show notes, but there was a comic panel, three separate.
Oh, from the Post story,
frames,
right?
Yeah, which made it into the Facebook group this week, which had an exchange between Poe and Leia, where she said something like, "I won't always be around. At some point, I'll be
for you to step up,
luminous," and that's the way she ended it.
Yeah.
And a lot of, like, I know Dave Donovan put that in the Facebook group and said, "What's this mean?" It's kind of looks like it's sort of stage setting now, doesn't it? Maybe she's got an inkling of what's going to happen.
But that's a weird thing to say. That doesn't make sense as a sentence, does it?
What the?
Why would you say
luminous beings
I'll
are we?
be luminous.
Yeah, but luminous beings are we, not this crude matter, is Yoda's line, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's still a strange thing to say to someone who's not in the Force.
As in as in beyond, she will be beyond sort of the physical.
Yeah, I mean, if that's a general way of describing that you're going to be dead, then I understand it. But who says luminous?
Yeah.
The general public doesn't say it, do they?
But then the general public aren't reading Star Wars comics.
No, it's definitely in there to sort of strike a chord with us.
Yeah.
In fandom.
Yeah, but I like it because, as the description in the subreddit put it much more eloquently than I would have, she goes out on her own terms in that example that I've described. She doesn't go out as a prisoner. She doesn't go out as, she goes out because she sacrifices herself for the greater good of the cause she's believed in all her life.
And she's in control and making active decisions.
Yeah, exactly.
It is in keeping. Yeah, definitely.
I think so. And, the other option is you open episode 9 with it and you use the footage from episode, the footage of some footage. It can be a body double, actually, at that point, because it doesn't need to be, you can do it in a way that doesn't.
It doesn't. It doesn't depend on you seeing Carrie. There was a thing back in The Force Awakens, the run up to The Force Awakens, where they spoke about a ship called the Sledgehammer, I think it was.
Which was Hammerhead. Oh.
No, there's a weapon or something that they refer to as the Sledgehammer. And it would be something that the Resistance had to destroy giant craft and things like that. And it would be a weapon that Leia was supposed to deploy.
Right.
And I wonder whether that could make its way into this, and that might be
got the common trope with sci-fi and stuff like that, where it can't be automatically disengaged and somebody has to go with the ship and stuff.
Yeah,
there's all sorts of space to play in if they go down that route. But like I say, I'm fully on board with that as a way of fixing the. There's no good way of doing it.
Yeah,
ultimately, because the way they're having to do it is not the way they want to do it. They don't get to do it on the terms that they would have wanted to do it. And also, what it also does is it gives, they were saying that they were sort of, the language implies that they were going to put Leia in, as an important place. Mm-hmm. An important place in episode 9. She can still be there. She can still be important in the film without being on screen all the time, because they're talking constantly about her legacy and what she sacrificed and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
All sorts of stuff like that. They can work into it.
There's also room for it to be like a standoff between Luke, Leia, and Kylo.
Yeah,
but all on ships, separate ships.
Or even better, she goes across to the First Order to kind of turn herself in as almost like a hostage, but actually she's rigged the ship to blow.
Mm.
And she tricks the First Order and manages to strike a massive blow to them, while at the same time, like I say, again, still going out on her terms, and she doesn't actually. She sort of, it's a fake out, her being a prisoner.
We've never had Leia hold a lightsaber. Couldn't she go out that way? Picks up a lightsaber.
We've heard of her using the Force at some point in this film to sort of defend herself.
Yeah,
but not a lightsaber, just the Force is what we've heard at the moment. We'll have to see. It's not something that It's not an idea I hate, Rob. There
No,
are
this
there
is
are
it.
elements of it that I think will be very sad because they will
Of course.
not seeing Mark and Carrie on screen interacting would be heartbreaking.
Like I say, that's the point. You know, they get so close and yet so far.
Yeah.
Because they're almost there, and maybe they even don't exchange a word, but they still go down that route of, you know, they sort of look at each other down the corridor.
Yeah, it's what's not said that's more powerful.
Yeah, and maybe he sort of shouts after her, but she's kind of not hearing a word, that sort of thing. Who knows?
I like it. Okay, I'm conscious of time, so we're going to just skip into this Han Solo news then, if we're done with the Last Jedi bits and pieces. There's one more bit in the show notes, which is an image of Finn's blaster from the Last Jedi, but that's pretty much kind of throwaway.
Is that kind of a bastardized version of Han's a little bit?
It's quite different, I think, from Han's. From what
DL-44.
Yeah. This looks like a more modern weapon adapted into a Star Wars weapon, whereas the prop used for the DL-44 was more like a Second World War.
It's a bit too snazzy, isn't it?
Machine pistol type thing. Yeah, this is.
It's a bit too cool.
It's got all the bells and whistles on it, isn't it?
I know. Yeah, anyway.
It doesn't look like a Star Wars gun, does it?
It looks more like a dread gun.
Yeah, very, very blue. All right, Han Solo stuff. So this bank holiday weekend, the production moved to Fuerteventura, and Warwick Davis was there. So there's been a couple of pictures. People spotted him at the airport and had their pictures taken with him. So he's definitely on his way out there for the shooting of the Han Solo movie. I think the only person that isn't there at the moment is Donald Glover, because he's on some sort of shoot in Italy or something. So that's kind of interesting that they've moved over there, and that set that they built a while ago is now coming into play. And they left behind Fawley Power Station, which is where they were doing a lot of this bumper car stuff, these pod cars. There was a ton of photographs leaked over the past week or so. In the past couple of episodes, we've spoken about some of them. And one of them was this purple car that's very sort of flat, like a land speeder. And there's an image.
Very cool.
There's an image in the show notes. This guy,
A lot bigger than a land speeder, isn't it?
yeah, kind of, yeah. I think this is kind of like a racing thing. From what the general impression we're getting is it might be some sort of race. Although some of the footage I've seen, the people have filmed on iPhones and what have you from the event, from the actual set, looks like a chase between one vehicle and Han's vehicle. It could just be that Han's winning the race, but it does look like, I'm getting the impression that it's very much a chase sequence rather than a race.
So this is going to be the race, I guess, where he wins the Falcon off of Lando.
I don't know, could be.
Could be. They've never said how he won it, so
No.
possibly.
He won it fair and square, but I don't know. But the
No,
fact that
that's a pillow fight.
you've got that would be brilliant if that was the retcon.
Yeah. They've got
This
pink frilly French knickers on, both of them.
this image from
Sorry.
in the show notes from hollowayphotography.co.uk was doctored by the photographer to remove the wheels of these cars,
Yeah.
because these are actual practical cars
Yes.
with these kits on to make them look. But that's what he's mocked that up. And the stunt doubles in there are believed to be the stunt double for Han driving, and we think the stunt double for the lady from Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones.
Okay.
Which
it kind
would
of
imply
makes
less of a race if she's in the car with him,
I was
potentially.
going to say, the stunt double looks absolutely bloody thrilled to be there, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Never seen anybody look so happy.
He's really
Be
focused.
careful the wind
I'd
doesn't
say.
change. They both look really bored.
Yeah.
I
like
think
really
this is
miffed
probably
in their
not in a
pictures.
scene, though, is it?
And
They're not.
no, of course. But the girl looks like she's really miffed at having a picture taken as
Yeah.
well. Like, just like, not now.
Well, a lot of this stuff.
This is
was,
why I became a stunt woman, so that I wouldn't.
Wasn't supposed to be. It's not supposed to be how my life was supposed to turn out.
I imagine if there's any close-up photography with these two, there'll be extensive face replacements. But a lot of this stuff was being shot with a drone, so there might be some overhead scenes with the stunt doubles
Oh,
the heavy
awesome.
lifting.
The lack of symmetry and everything is superb.
Well, that's something that I really like as well. I think
It's homebrew.
it looks like there's a piece missing off of the
It's like a fold.
Yeah, it looks like a book laying
It does.
down.
Yeah. It's awesome.
But I wonder if on the driver's side there's a whole part of the car missing. Not that it's been lost, but that's might be how he's built and modified the car.
I think it's come off in the race or something.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Could be, yeah. All sort of stitched together with duct tape and the equivalent.
I like this.
Yeah, I like the asymmetry of it. I think it's a really gorgeous thing. This, and taking the wheels away just changes its appearance completely. Suddenly, it looks like Star Wars, and all of these.
Didn't they use mirrors on the original?
There was a mirror. There was a mirror on the land speeder that come down over the trike wheels.
Smash a lot.
But they also did a thing like they fogged out the lens with just a little bit of Vaseline on the lens, which are all very down and dirty, cheap and nasty, but very effective techniques.
Painted shadowing on afterwards.
Yeah, but here we are now with this. Yeah, it was all just animated, keyframe animated, that stuff. But here we are now with this. They've got so much more freedom. And I think these look good. All the cars they've got set up for this sequence at Fawley Power Station looked amazing. But this is easily the hero car. This is the best one out of the lot. And with that, I think that's it. There's not a lot else going on at the moment. Not a lot of news out there. Just these rumours and spy things and bits and pieces from toys. It's a quiet period. Something has to happen soon, I think.
D23.
Well, it's D23 next month. Which will have a lot of reveals. I like to think that we might get something before D23 in terms of a trailer for The Last Jedi, maybe.
Could be.
And like a second teaser, and then the theatrical will be revealed at maybe D23. Or maybe we'll have to wait for the second teaser at D23 and a full-on trailer at Comic-Con. I don't know what Lucasfilm's presence is going to be at Comic-Con, if anything at all. But we're 6 months out still, so I'm not surprised that there isn't more. I'm just getting impatient and I want some. All right, guys, you got anything you want to throw in here before we go?
No, I'm good, mate.
Okay, let's get this thing wrapped up then. So thank you very much for joining us again on Talk Star Wars this week. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review in iTunes and take advantage of our Ron Burgundy guarantee. Whatever you write in there, I'll read as long as it's clean. So if you want to promote your own blog or your podcast, that's the place to do it. You can email us your questions and comments to talkstarwarsinfo@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us on one of our many social channels, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, to name but a few. And with that said, gents, where can people find you between shows?
Find me at Stephen_Ware on Twitter or Wild About Nature on YouTube.
Find me at Movie Score News on Twitter, Interweb, YouTube, all of them.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Rob Wade Vision, and you can find Emotionally 14, which is my other thing, on emotionally14.com and Facebook, Twitter, iTunes, YouTube, Woix.
Wonderful. You'll find everything I do at talkstarwars.co.uk, and I'm on Twitter. I'm at Talk Star Wars. Stick around for the promo for the Star Wars Commonwealth. And if you get a chance, head over to Facebook to the Toy Box page, the TSW Toy Box, and you'll be able to access Marc Airy's daily podcast over there, the Toy Run. Very interesting stuff in there. I'm really getting pulled in deep. The guy's a
genius when it comes to this stuff. He's an absolute. I've never known anybody quite so knowledgeable on the subject as he is.
Yeah,
Jeremy does his best, bless him. But Marc, I'm sure Jeremy would agree as well.
Oh, Marc's a steel trap. He said that as much himself, Jeremy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and Marc's doing a lot at the moment to sort of reach out and network with different retailers, and he's got some interesting interviews lined up. There's a lot going on over there, and it's a brand new thing for Talk Star Wars, this toy business, and it's really working very, very well. I'm very pleased.
Yeah, indeed.
And there's a new episode of the TSW Comics podcast that I do with Robert Cast out there at the moment, where we talk about Darth Maul numbers 2 and 3. So if that's your thing, check that out. It's one of our monthly shows. Okay, let's get out of here now. We've been doing this for a couple of hours, so we'll catch up with you guys again next week. Have a good one.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye.
Talk Star Wars is a proud member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. Find us at StarWarsCommonwealth.com alongside
The Tumbling Saber Podcast,
the Generation X-Wing Podcast,
the TSW Roundtable,
the Skyhoppers Podcast,
and the Nerd Room Podcast.
Head to StarWarsCommonwealth.com and take your first steps into a larger world.
It's a wrap. It's a wrap.
Let's talk about Loot Crate. Are you on a quest for epic gear, housewares and collectibles? Loot Crate offers an epic range of pop culture items for less than $20 per month. Whether you're shopping for the geek in your life or you are that geek, Loot Crate is the best surprise you know is coming. Every month there's a different theme and new and exclusive items that you can only get with Loot Crate. Treat yourself every month or give the gift of geeking out to a friend or a loved one. You have until the 19th at 9 PM Pacific to subscribe and receive that month's crate, and when the cut-off happens, that's it, it's over. Make sure to head to lootcrate.com/TalkStarWars and enter the code TalkStarWars and save $3 off your new subscription today.